Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our Tuesday night, The Big Conversation. Every time we have a guest on, I say it's an honor and a privilege, and I wonder whether I'm going to be saying the same thing for every single one. But so far, no one's let me down, and it really is an honor and a privilege to have Natalie Mayer with us tonight. Natalie, as all of you know, is a dear friend of everyone at the Woodside Park community, and I was thinking just before coming on, I think she might be up there in the ranks of one of the most liked people at the Woodside Park Shul. She's done an incredible amount, a lot that people can see and a lot that people are less aware of. And I think she's a real true inspiration for us as a community, and I, for one, have really learned a lot from Natalie in the way she does things. And I don't really want to embarrass her too much, so I'm not going to say too much, Natalie. We'll let everyone hear from you. But for those of you who maybe don't know Natalie as well, Natalie is our head teacher at the Yavne nursery. She's been the head teacher for 2 years, and she's been teaching at Yavne for a total of 10 years. And I'd really like to hear from Natalie her experiences, because she has a lot to share, and I think all of us have a lot to gain. So Natalie, welcome tonight, and thank you so much for coming. Let me just unmute you so that we can hear what you're saying. Here we go. Natalie, you're unmuted. So
Lovely.
How are you doing, Natalie? How has lockdown been treating you?
Very good, thank you for a lovely introduction. That was very nice. Had a good lockdown, as lockdowns go,
Yeah.
Not too bad.
I guess everyone has their ups and downs during lockdown.
Indeed.
So I just wanted to ask you, just starting off over here, I can see you weren't always involved in teaching at a nursery. You also had a bit of a background experience in advertising agency.
Yeah.
And clearly, as I see you now, you are extremely motivated in terms of what you do, and you love the job that you do. And I'm just wondering what it is about what you do. What motivated you to get involved with this, and why do you love it so much?
Well, like you say, I was working in advertising. I was working at Saatchi, which I'm sure most people have heard of. It's a very big advertising agency. That was when I was in my 20s. It was all very exciting and, full on. Having already trained as a nursery teacher, when I first left school, I did work in a nursery. It wasn't the right kind of nursery for me, so I was very easily swayed into the world of advertising. And I did that for about 10 years, and it was really good fun. But then I became a mum, and I wasn't actually looking for a job at all. First of all, I took my eldest son when he was a baby to a music group with mothers and toddlers, and sat and watched the music group, and the low energy person that was running the group and was getting very frustrated, thinking I could do this so much better, because I'm a bit musical as well. So that's what I did, instead of complaining about something, it's better to get on and do it. So I started running a mother and toddler music group, just for something to do, with my son. And then my son went to Yavne Nursery, and like a lot of people who go to Yavne Nursery, the children leave and the grown-ups stay. I then retrained, qualified. I'm still training now. I'm two-thirds of the way through a BA honours degree, because there's always more to learn in my job. So being a Yavne parent, like quite a few of the Yavne staff, we've turned into Yavne staff. The children leave and we don't, we stay. It's a lovely thing to do.
What I've also noticed about you, Natalie, is that you are very motivated about working for the nursery, but you keep up that enthusiasm. I know whenever I take my daughter to the nursery, you're always standing there with an excitement, with a real energy, and you never seem to get tired of what you do. And I want to know what the secret is. What's your secret behind the constant enthusiasm and motivation, and what is it that keeps you going?
Isn't it obvious? It's the children. So no 2 days are the same. No two conversations are the same. No two interactions. Even if you're doing the same story that you've done before, you're going to be heckled in a completely different way. Every single interaction that I have is real, with real people who are all completely different from each other. So every single day is different. Every single interaction is different. And that's, going to keep you motivated. There's always going to be something new to learn, new to do. It's very, motivating thing to do.
Yep.
So, yeah.
As you know, my daughter is also at Yavne Nursery. My daughter Alana is there, and
Yeah.
one of the things that really propelled me to have you come on tonight is because I've seen firsthand how much you've had such an influence on her life. When we joined the shul, she was a sweet kid, but she was very shy, and it was really hard to get words out of her if she didn't know you. And after joining Yavne Nursery, she really came out of herself, and she's now a different child. She is confident, and she has so much. She's full of life, and I think that very much is down to you and all the staff at Yavne Nursery. And I wanted to know how you do what you do. I mean, can you share with us how you help nurture these children's development and how you bring out the best in them? Because clearly you do a good job and you know what you're doing.
Ilana has changed. That is our main focus at the nursery, is to nurture and develop children and bring out the best in children. There's a lot of different requirements from a nursery, and ours is that we want to bring out the best in children. I mean, in a nursery you've got Ofsted requirements, tick sheets and tick boxes and all these kind of things that have to be done. You've got the requirements of the parents, which are often more, learn the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. You've got the requirements of the children, which is that they want to have fun. And then you've got what we want for our Yavne children. And that very much is that we want to bring out the best in every single child. We want to develop them into their own potential, their own thing. We want children at nursery to be saying no and why. Yeah. And to have their own voice, to be independent, to be resilient. These are the things that we're focusing on, as well as the fact that we've got to do our tick sheets and fill in all the boxes for everybody else and everything that they want. All we want is independent, resilient, happy children that are going to leave ready for school. So we put an awful lot into that, an awful lot. I think it's mostly down to we've got very, very good staff children relationships. Each child has got their own key person, and that key person's job is to track each child's development really closely, so know exactly what they're interested in and how to motivate each child and bring out the best in each child. You can't just write, I don't know how they do it at school, but I think they write like a big plan for the whole class. We're writing a big plan for every single child to bring out the best in what they want and what they're interested in, and I think that's how we do it. Yeah.
I think something I've noticed as well about the way you just speak to children and the way you interact with them is that they get treated in a way like adults, like equals, human beings. You're not sort of talking down to them, but they feel very respected. And that's something I've just learned from watching the way you interact with them. And, I really think that's incredible, the way you do that. And am I correct in my assessment? Is that what Yavne is looking to do in terms of their interaction with the children?
There's a lot to respect about children. There's a lot to like about children, and the more you get to know each child as an individual, rather than looking at them all as the children in the nursery, if you treat each child as an individual, you are going to learn to respect them and to love them. We really do genuinely love all the children. I think they feel it, they know, they feel respected, and they feel like they want to use their voice because they know we're listening. They know that we care what they're saying. It matters. So that makes somebody want to speak up, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And the truth is, once we respect that child and we have a love for that child, which they feel, we also learn a lot from that child as well. When we see children as children, they don't have much to teach us. Exactly. We're the all-knowing adults, and they're the child that we have to fill up with information. Yeah, exactly. So we think, and we often get caught off guard, and we realize how much more they know than us.
Yes.
But I really feel like once we treat children with respect and with sort of that love, we really learn to respect them and love them and really learn a lot from them. And you've had so much experience with this, and I'm just wondering, and I'm sure there is, if there's anything you can share with us about what you've learnt from the children, lessons you've learnt from the kids, thinking back to my own children and the other children I've had interactions with, one thing that comes to mind is forgiveness. I've just noticed when my children fight, which they do here and there, a lot more during lockdown actually, but they do fight here and there. And just when they fight between their friends, they might come home very sad and upset, but the next day they're best friends again, and they don't really hold any resentment in their heart. And we're sort of born like that as human beings, to drop it. And somehow when we get older, we forget how to do that, or we lose track of what's important in life, and we hold grudges and bear resentment against. So for me, one thing I've learned from kids is just the concept of forgiveness, and not not being resentful about things. And I'm just wondering if there's anything you can share about what you've learned from kids in general, or maybe one moment you can think of where that child really taught you something about life, because I really think that we can learn a lot from children.
Definitely what you're saying, you're spot on. That's exactly right. We learn from them every day. Their behavior is so innocent and raw, and how we all start out in life, and then somewhere along the way society brings in all of this other stuff. But children don't see race, they just see everybody as another person, and they don't have any preconceived ideas. So you learn a lot about your own behavior. You can't say stop shouting to a child when you're shouting. You have to model all of the time. We're modeling the kind of behavior that we want them to have. And you see, when children come into nursery, you see that they behave in the way that their family behaves at home, and the way that we behave. They start to imitate us an awful lot, and it does make you notice how you behave, but also how you see the world. So things like nature that you may not have ever had an interest in. Children of 2 and 3 years old are fascinated with nature and creepy crawlies and leaves. They see everything with such wonder and awe. So the main thing you learn from them is to see everything with wonder and awe, to see everything with that same first time. I've learned countless things, like how to tell the difference between a diplodocus and a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and and the planets, and every time they get so excited about a project, you obviously learn about that project too, and it can be anything from Disney to the planets of the world. But more importantly, it is the human behavior, it's the way that they behave that makes you look at the way that you behave, and the way that they see things that makes you look at the way that you see things. It is very that's really insightful actually, and that's it was worth coming on just to hear that, hearing how children are just loving by nature. We don't have to teach them about as you mentioned, race and things like that. For them it's natural to just treat human beings as human beings, and not sort of have any prejudice against others for being different. And also the fact that they're so interested in life, and they're just so fascinated by the world. As we get older, we sort of lose interest in the flowers and in the trees and in the planets and all those things. And it's their curiosity which is quite inspiring. And as you say, if we're around kids long enough, then it sort of rubs off on us, and we really feel that as well. They have so much to say. Like, when a child does a picture and they come and show it to you, the amount of times you go lovely or something like that, and then that's the end of the conversation. But if you just stop and say to a child, what did you draw, or you ask the question, they know that lovely means I'm doing the washing up and I've got 100 things to do, and I don't even know what your picture is. They're not silly. And if you stop and say, oh, tell me about what you drew, or you ask them a question, they've got you learn to respect them and hear their voice, and they've got something interesting to say, and it teaches you.
No, for sure. And I really feel like that's where Yavne's successes come from, because as you mentioned as well before, it's not about teaching the children information, it's about being that example for the child. And if they feel that, I think the key word over here is feeling.
Yeah.
If they feel that from their teachers or from whoever they're sort of looking up to, then that itself is a learning experience. It doesn't need to be articulated in words. It's more the way in which we operate and the way in which we live.
Yeah.
And for
It's
a
very
kid,
real.
and for a kid to be sort of privileged to have that at that age, I think is amazing. And it's you know, I can only speak for myself, but I know that everyone that goes to Yavne feels the same way, that they really feel like their child has a whole holistic development. It's not just the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, but it's really
That's exactly
the
right.
whole development of who they are, and
exactly
just
right.
their just well-being. Their well-being, I think, is really looked
But
after.
interestingly,
Yeah.
if your well-being is high
Mm-hmm.
and you've had this development where your curiosity is enhanced because
Yeah.
your well-being is high and because somebody's interested in you and you're interested in them, that then leads to really good learning.
Yeah.
So where we don't need to sit them down and say, now I know everything and you know nothing and here's the
Yeah.
ABC, they then become so curious about the world, about everything, that they want to learn. So by the time they leave Yavne, we've had lots of primary schools say to us that the children from Yavne are all really ready to learn. It's not that they know so much, it's that they've got a hunger to learn that really sets them on their way, because that's what we've enhanced, their curiosity for learning.
That's a really, really good point. I never thought about that before, but you're so right. Children, I think, naturally want to learn. It's just we are programmed from the day we're born to just learn more about the world, and somehow when learning becomes associated with just filling people up with information, I think we lose interest. And if our curiosity could be nurtured, and if that learning experience isn't just about filling me with more information, then that natural desire to learn will continue beyond their formative years. Now, that's a really special point. It sort of does lead us on to our next question. I mean, we might have covered almost all of this already, but there are many nurseries out there, and there are many good nurseries out there as well. And I was wondering whether you could share with us what you think it is about Yavne that sort of stands out from the rest. What Yavne brings to the table, which you think is unique to Yavne and special about Yavne, and what we should be so proud of as our shul nursery.
Absolutely. There's one thing in particular. There's a few things, but definitely the main thing is this family feel, this community feel, where you feel, the teachers really love the children and the parents really love the teachers. There's a three-way triangle between teachers, children and parents that is really strong. You really feel it. Everybody says it. It's very genuine, and that's the special quality, really. When my oldest Sam was 1 year old, I knew I wanted him to go to a shul nursery, but I didn't know which one, and I was living in Mill Hill East, which is very betwixt and between quite a few different shul nurseries. So we went to see quite a few of them. They were all very, very similar. And when I walked into Yavne, and I was talking to the staff members there, and Miriam said to Samuel something like this, and she like this with his cheek, and it just had a massive impact on me. There was such a warmth,
humanness
in the nursery. It was really, really warm, and that warmth is something that has stayed. And obviously the staff team has changed slightly. People come and go, but always there's, the most important thing is that the staff are all really warm and caring and want to nurture the children. It's got a fantastic team of governors, as you know, who are so supportive to me. So I've got it. It's coming from top down. I've got really supportive people helping me behind the scenes. Everybody who's involved, it's really a community thing. And
there's a real dedication and a care and like a family feel.
Makes a difference.
Something which I was really touched by as well was, as you know, because you're the one that did this, is that immediately when we joined the shul, you made a real strong point about having a strong relationship between the rabbinic team and the nursery, because you felt like, and obviously rightly so, that it was important that the children get a good understanding of their Judaism from a young age as well. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear from you why you feel that's so important and why it is that kids really need to get that, albeit at such a young age.
So we have a lot of different religious backgrounds at the nursery, all different kinds. Everybody's chosen to come to a Jewish nursery, no matter what they already know previously. And I don't think we teach Judaism. I think we live it, if that makes sense. We live an experience. We like to be very connected to the shul. We are the shul nursery. And every time there's a hug and every Shabbat, you know, we live the experience so that the children have that identity. It's one thing to sit with a book and learn your alphabet, whatever, that can happen at any point in your life, but to live the experience of knowing what is it that is being Jewish, what, you know, I think if I asked my Avna children, what do you like about being Jewish, they'd have an answer. It might just be the colour tastes nice, but that's a part of it, you know. They know they're living a Jewish experience. They're comfortable in the shul. You know, they're comfortable, you know.
And that's so important. That's so important because we can teach our kids so much, but if they don't have, as you say, like the feeling for it, or the just the it's not so much the feeling, but it's like we all have it, you know, tasting our grandmother's chicken soup or our mother's chicken soup from a young age. It's sort of in our bones already from that age, and that really stays with children forever. So I think what I'm understanding from what you're saying is that when you give them that experience, then it sort of sticks, and there's something about their Jewish identity which is somewhat sparked, albeit not necessarily, you know, sometimes unbeknownst to them in a way. It's almost in a very subtle way, but in a deep way.
Yes.
And that's really long, and I can see that as well from the interactions I've had coming in on the different chagim and stuff.
Yeah.
So we can't have a conversation without talking about the current crisis, as people like to call it, although I think we are somewhat almost at the other side of it, almost through that long tunnel. Yeah, well, everyone can testify to the fact that before you guys were on furlough, you were doing a great, you know, fantastic job of keeping the kids entertained on Zoom, and it's a really, really difficult challenge to have kids of that age engaged on a Zoom call. You know, I don't know how you did it, but my daughter really enjoyed, and she was so upset when they had to stop. And she's so looking forward to going back to nursery in, I think, 2 weeks' time. Am I correct? 29th.
On 29th.
29th of June. So I was just curious to hear, and I think other people might be as well, besides for the necessary sort of health and safety precautions which we need to take in terms of social distancing and you know, the sanitary condition, what other challenges do you think you're going to face in terms of going back to the nursery? And how do you think you're going to deal with them?
So I think the biggest thing, like you say, it's not so much about the health side of it. It's about the fact that these children have been at home for 3 months. A quarter of a year when you're 3 years old. It's a long time. An awful long time. And they've obviously all had very different experiences at home, most of them very positive, but still it's away from nursery. So they've missed out on all the benefits of being at nursery, in particular socialization, I think. So it's going to be a challenge to have them all back and get them all into a routine. The main focus when they come back, you know, will be their well-being, their social skills. You know, they're all going to have had different experiences. Some of them may have been around illness, or, you know, people who've lost their lives, or, you know, parents who are very anxious, parents who've been working non-stop. And
some kids whose older brothers may have been bullying them here and there.
Absolutely. They've all had a different experience. You know, some people are going to have been, some children are going to have been the centre of mummy's world again for a while. And then it's difficult. You know, one of the first lessons you learn when you go to nursery is, I'm not the centre of the universe. I need to be part of, you know, a society. So, you know, they're all going to come back and they're all going to have to settle back into nursery, and you know, some of them will be leaving again to go off to big school. So we've got to get them ready for school. Which we normally have a long time to do. And by ready to school, I don't mean reading and writing, I mean, can you take off your own socks and shoes? Can you pour your own jug of water? You know, all the things that you have to do when you go off to school. I want them going feeling confident. I want them going being able to say, excuse me, you know, and ask a question. You know, I want them to leave feeling as confident and independent as they would have had they not had a 3-month break. So we've got a bit of catching up to do.
So now, knowing you as I do, I'm not worried about any of that stuff, because I know that you guys are going to do a fantastic job at really dealing with that. But I'm just curious what type of things you've been thinking of in terms of how you're going to approach it and how you're going to sort of allow the kids to settle back into their new routine.
Well, they've got to cope as well with the fact that the nursery has to change.
Yeah.
According to government guidelines, you can't expect tiny children to social distance. So what we're doing is putting them in smaller groups.
Right.
So the nursery will look different. There'll be some of them coming in from the front entrance and using one classroom, and there'll be some of them coming in from the back entrance and using the other classroom. So while all of that might be a little bit difficult because it's new, the main advantage is they'll be in much smaller groups.
Right.
So we're really going to be able to give them an awful lot of love and attention, even more so than usual, and really focus on each child's challenge.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully that will.
Oh, that's really interesting. I see my son's in year 1, so he went back to school yesterday, and I've been thinking one of the silver linings in a way. I know he's been out of school for 3 months, so it's been a real challenge, but one of the silver linings I can see is the fact that, as you just said now, there's a lot more personal attention that each kid gets. He's gone from being in a class of 28 or 30 to being in a class of 14. And kids can really benefit so much from that being the case. So that is in a way, I think there's what to be grateful for in terms of the new setup. But obviously we're waiting till things go back to normal and we can all just live normal lives again. I am conscious of the fact we're coming up to the end of this conversation. We could go on forever. I've really been enjoying it, and I've really learned so much from what you've shared, and I'm just so grateful that you've come on. And I just wanted to stress again how grateful we are at the shul for having you lead our nursery. I think I can speak on behalf of everyone. You are just a fantastic person to have in our midst. We're not just grateful for you running the nursery, but we're grateful for you being a friend and someone who we can learn from. And we look forward to having many more experiences together, please God, when we go back to nursery.
Indeed.
So thank you so much again.
For having me. It's always my pleasure to, I love my job, and it's a pleasure to talk about it, basically.
And I think everyone, I've been looking at all the comments over here on Facebook, and people are, you've got a lot of fans out there. Natalie is a truly amazing person. Such an amazing woman. So
I'm looking out. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Well, really nice to speak to you. Keep well, and looking forward to seeing you in person very, very soon.
Very soon. Thank you so
have a good night, and have a good night to everyone who is watching as well. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you to those watching on Facebook. Thank you to those watching on YouTube. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. As soon as we get 100 subscribers, we can have our own YouTube link, which makes it a lot easier to get the word out there and stuff. So once again, thank you all for joining. Wishing you all a good night. Keep safe and look after yourselves.